Welcome to the International Souls Podcast. Here, we have valuable conversations with leading experts in their field. I'm your host, Eryck, and each week I sit down with people who dare to dream bigger, act braver, and build lives that inspire. You'll hear real stories, lessons learned, and expert insight from across industries and cultures, each one driven by purpose. This show is about leaving the good for the great, taking a leap of faith. Here we go. Guys, welcome to the International Souls Podcast. Today, I am honored to sit down with Monsieur Karim Leduc. He is the founder and the CEO of Dulcedo Models, a visionary whose work has completely transformed my life and countless others. Karim's passion and leadership have set new standards in the industry, earning him a well-deserved spot as a 2024 Entrepreneur of the Year finalist in Quebec with EY. Having known Karim for over 16 years, I'm truly grateful for this opportunity to explore his inspiring journey, groundbreaking ideas, and the incredible impact he continues to make. Karim, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Eryck. I'm honored to be on your podcast and to be a guest on what I think is going to be a great success for you.
Thank you, brother. I really appreciate it. It means a lot. So before we jump into it, we're like Tuesday. We're shooting this on a Tuesday. It was probably one of the biggest weekend in Montreal. It's F1 weekend. I believe you were pretty much out and about. Dulcedo was really implicated in those events. Just how was that weekend for you?
It's always nice to see our city that alive, like everyone just comes out of their shells and out of their caverns, and then they're out and about having fun. We have a lot of tourists, a lot of Americans, a lot of Europeans coming through. It's just beautiful to see the city transform like that. And as a talent agency, we're oftentimes invited as privileged guests in very exclusive events, which is super nice. We had our talents in at the race on the paddocks or in the stands getting tickets by the F1 organization. So thank you to them for that. But yeah, it can be a little bit tiring after a marathon. All sorts of beautiful events and parties happening in the evening time as well. So you definitely need to charge up your batteries before and then to recharge them after such a marathon.
Yeah, I totally get that. I used to actually DJ to a lot of those events and be out and about. And obviously, as Dulcedo did invite me to a lot of parties back in the days. And it's wild. It's. I think it's one of the most energized weekend of Montreal during the summer. It just kickstarts everything. And yeah, so I'm glad that you're recovering and that you made it for today's podcast. So Karim, if you had to describe your younger self in a few sentences, who were you before being a founder, a CEO of Dulcedo? Let's go back a little bit and let's share that
Wow.
story.
Oh, that's a good question. You're taking me a little bit by surprise there. I didn't prepare anything, so I'll be improvising the answers and speaking from my heart
Of course,
and
brother.
just jumping right in. I would say I was always an aspiring entrepreneur before becoming an entrepreneur. I remember
Okay.
watching my father count money after he got home from his day working in his shop. He had a shop on St. Catherine, and he sold posters and clothing, and it was just a small shop. But I remember when I was like 4 or 5 years old, watching him on the bed counting the day's income, and I was just like mind blown. He would take me to the shop as well. I remember being almost a toddler, and he put a mat on the floor, and I'd sleep behind the counter of the shop, and I was just admiring him. I was just like, idolizing him. He was my hero. My father was my greatest hero growing up. And I remember one day I want to be a businessman like my father. That was always kind of my vision for my future. And obviously, I got around to realizing that dream later in my life, which is awesome. But before jumping into entrepreneurship, I was a little bit of a rebel at school. I have to admit, I was a little a troubled child in the classroom. I'd be making my peers laugh, making jokes, being kind of a class clown, lots of energy. And I think teachers had a little bit of a hard time with me. I was also a little bit arrogant. I have to call it out the way it was. I was a little bit arrogant. I kind of knew that I was going to accomplish big things, and I kind of felt like school was a little bit of a waste of my time. Even though
Mm,
now, looking back onto that, I can see how much school has helped me. Like it has
mm,
taught me so much. So I guess a little bit of that kind of vibe was with me, but I always love to build communities. And I think that's what has transpired into my professional life later is Dulcedo is an amazing community. It's a big
mm.
collective of amazing artists in all walks of life. And for me to bring people together in one community is a little bit what I was doing online when internet was just getting started. So I guess that kind of paints a little bit of a portrait of who I was before jumping into entrepreneurship.
Did you had good grade at school? Were you like a A-list student or more a CD and going to detention and
Definitely a lot of detention. Oh my
okay,
God. Also, sometimes
okay,
suspensions for being arrogant or talking back to a teacher. But one thing I
okay,
did manage to always have is really good grades. I had just a natural ability of retaining information. I think I'm a visual learner, and at
okay.
school they would write everything on the chalkboard, and I just retained information really easy. And I had very strong reading comprehension skills as well for a young age. I had the number one grade in the whole school on the sixth year of elementary school when they ran a big test across the school. It was
Wow.
a standardized test, and I scored really well. And even though I was having trouble with the teachers and trouble with authority figures, you could call it, I still maintained to have really good grades just by listening and not even doing any homework. So that was I think a little bit of a superpower I had to be good in school with like very low effort.
And did you pursue, so you pursue higher studies after your high school? Did you went to CJEP or university?
Yeah, I was questioning myself a lot because I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do in life, but I knew I didn't want a 9 to 5 standard job. I wanted
Okay.
something out of the ordinary. I wanted something exciting. I wanted something that felt like it had a purpose in my life. And so I wasn't decided until later on. So I went to CJEP, which is the in the US, it's equivalent to college. I graduated a professional degree in business management,
Okay.
and I really had a taste of like HR stuff, accounting stuff,
Mm-hmm.
finance, and then marketing and human resource management. And it's really when I started dabbling into marketing that I really found my I guess what lights me up. I love marketing. I love branding. I love building brands. So while in school, I was able to have some fun playing in some fictitious case studies and that kind of stuff, and then with the other peers, building fictitious brands and stuff like that. So that's really it was a lot of fun for me in college. And then that's when I actually had a chance to start my online business. I was a web developer. I did websites, logo design, and that's a little bit of my artistic side. So I decided to launch a business. And while I was in school, I actually started making sales, and I was actually pretty good at it. So I was making some pretty good, decent money while I was in school. And so, even though after college I transitioned to university, in my first year of university, I dropped out to just focus on my business.
Which was at that time the code. Well, was it coding or was website design? Was that the business you're talking
Design
about?
more. Yeah.
Okay. So you dropped out of university to really pursue the website business.
Yeah. So,
Okay. Well, so interesting. So this is all new information for me as well. So Kareem, like throughout this process, what moment planted the first seed of like everything that you could have created, and you already had a business going, what was the moment that the first seed was planting of building your own modeling talent? At the beginning, you started with modeling, so modeling talent agency, which is a very niche, and Montreal is not necessarily a market in terms of modeling agency, as you know. And I'm very curious, like, what was the beginning and what was the seed? How did that happen?
Right. Um, so I'm gonna give a little bit of a context before. So in college, when I finished my degree, I had an internship, and the internship was at the International Fashion Center in Montreal. I worked under Eyal Cohen, who is a well-known figure in the fashion industry, and he tasked me with doing a market research of the impact of China on manufacturing in Canada of apparel, right? Clothing, of the fashion industry in Canada. So, what's the impact of China on that? And he tasked me to put together a survey and then to run the survey to all the designers in the city of Montreal and to find them, reach out to them on behalf of the Fashion Center of Montreal and to tally up all those results of all those questions and to get some kind of understanding of like what's the impact of China on the industry. So what that allowed me to do was to be really in touch with these designers face to face, asking them a bunch of intimate questions about their business and to tally that up into a survey. I got a lot of FaceTime with like some pretty deep truths about what was going on behind the scenes in the fashion world with these designers and business owners, and it was a really inspiring moment for me. I remember really enjoying that internship that lasted for about 4 months. So I got to meet, I think, around 150 different design companies from Montreal, some of the largest names in Canada whose head office was in Montreal. And at the end of it all, I tallied that up and I presented the final results to the Fashion Center. And it was clear China was having a massive impact. But what it taught us from the research was that the design and the brains were still in Montreal. It was just the cutting and sewing that was being done overseas and getting imported. So the companies that successfully were able to keep the brains, but then to outsource the production were actually doing really, really well. They were saving costs and they were doing fantastic. So what it taught me was that there was a big industry in Montreal and it wasn't looking like it was going to die off. It was actually thriving. There was more and more brands happening in Montreal, coming out of Montreal. So then,
I see.
yeah, moving forward, then a year and a half later, I'm doing my website design company and I'm doing, web studio and logo work and branding and that kind of stuff for a bunch of different clients. And one day my father walks into my office and he's like, I'm gonna start an acting agency. And I'm like, really, Dad? What's that about? It's a totally random idea. He's like, yeah, you're gonna help me. You're gonna make my website, and then I'm gonna, recruit actors and start booking them on films. And I'm like, okay, interesting. What's the business model? He said, well, we're gonna advertise. We're gonna get young aspiring actors that want to become actors, and we're gonna get them in a database, and then we're gonna find them work. And I'm like, okay, how are you gonna find them work, Dad? And he's like, well, I'm not too sure, but we'll figure that out later once we get to that point. And I'm like, really? That sounds a bit like sketch, like it just doesn't sound like a solid business plan. So I'm gonna pass on that. And then one of my employees, one of my very first employees, whom Milad, overheard that conversation from the background. He was one of our designers in my design studio, and he's like, "Why don't you guys start a model agency instead? I'm a fashion photographer. I do fashion photography. I know a bunch of models, and I could help you guys, recruit models." And I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a much more fun project. And I know the fashion industry really well. I have a bunch of contacts with business owners, and that sounds like a much better plan. Let's do that. So then my father turns to me and he's like, I'm not interested in that at all. So if you guys want to do that, do it yourselves. I'm going to do the acting thing and, and you guys do that. So then I turn to Milad, I look at him and I'm like, do you really want to do this? Do you actually serious about it? He's like, yeah, like I think it's a great idea. So I said, okay, let's just do it. We'll partner 50-50 and we'll start the business. We'll make the website and we'll do it. And the rest is history. We actually did it. I think I was like 22 turning 23 at the time where we started Dulcedo. I started the website business around 19 and then incorporated officially like when I was 21 years old. And then by 22, we had this idea with Dulcedo. And Milad at the time, I think he was 17 turning 18. So we were like kids, man.
So, Kareem, at such a young age, starting this business, you mentioned about seeing and seeking those opportunity and be able to believe in it. But I mean, when you're early 20s, there's there's so much to be learned. There's so much experience to be received and to grow from. How can you actually know that I don't know if you had like this intuition, or how can you differentiate a good opportunity versus a bad opportunity? Like, how did you just felt, yeah, this is it. This is a good one. Let's go. Or you had no idea and you just went all in.
Yeah, I had no idea, so it's not like I stopped to make a business plan. And although my teachers would tell me make a business plan, I'm a very intuition driven person. I follow my North Star, and I have my own inner compass, and I
Mm,
just roll. That's how I operate as a person. But I've over the years, there's some opportunities that haven't been as good as I thought they were, and I lost a lot of money on them, right? So I
mm,
had to start a business venture and then shut it down because you realize the opportunity is not as good as you thought it was. But back when I was 20, like you said, a lot to learn. And I think that's important, is to be willing to learn, to be hungry to learn and to discover new things. And I think that's a little bit part of my personality, is that I'm kind of like an empty cup mentality, and I love to be filled with new knowledge and to receive new knowledge, either learning by experience or being taught by others from their experience. And so when I started this, it was like with a lot of innocence and just a lot of improvisation, and just like, I know there's an opportunity. I feel it. My intuition is telling me go. And what I don't know, I believe I have the ability to learn it. So I'm going to trust in myself and just jump into it. And as soon as there's a challenge, I'll turn it into an opportunity to find a solution. And that's just
mm.
my mindset all the time.
Wow. I think that's a skill. Like, it's a mindset, but it's probably a skill that you have to learn and trust, just like you're mentioning about your North Star and your intuition. This is a question I'm always curious, because intuition is kind of you know, it's hard to put a finger on it. What's your relationship with intuition? Was it something from younger age that you've always was able to kind of listen to, or if you've learned throughout, age and experience to listen to intuition, but not just in business, also with relationship, with travels, with just guide, like just listening to that inner voice, which I believe we all have. The answers all come from within. That's my perspective. So yeah, so what's your relationship, Kareem, with intuition?
Yeah, it's a very intimate relationship, and like you said,
Good.
it's a very abstract concept.
Yeah.
Intuition, it's hard to put your finger and define it, but the way I would describe it is, like you said, the inner voice, right? It tells you go or stop, or pivot, turn left, turn right, do it, don't do it, stay with this person, leave this person. And a lot of the times, I think it's more of a battle with the brains. The heart is kind of battling with the brains, where the brain is
Mm-hmm.
telling you, well, you've invested so much into this. It would be a
Yeah.
shame if you just stopped here. And, you should keep going. Things might change, stay positive. But your inner voice is like, stop now. You're wasting your time. Switch to something else. But you're ignoring your inner voice because the brain is battling it, and you're being too logical about things. You're reasoning yourself. And I think it's important not to confuse the inner voice with the brain. I think they're kind of different. They're on a different frequency, if I could kind of put it that way.
Mm,
So, and even me, I mean, I make mistakes. Sometimes I reason myself into a bad decision, or I don't listen to my inner voice because I've been reasoned either by others or by my own mind. So I think, like you said, you gotta create also a little bit of silence to hear the inner voice. Because if there's too much noise around you, and there's too much noise in your life, maybe you're out of sync, you're out of tune with that inner voice. And although I'd love to meditate more, I mean, like a lot of really, really, exceptional people on earth have confirmed the importance of meditation in life, and how powerful it is to create that silence to be able to evolve. I think I should be putting more energy into meditation and like more time and focus onto it. I don't probably put enough time, but yeah, like I think you need to have the space to be able to hear the inner voice.
mm. A space to hear the inner voice. Yeah, I couldn't I couldn't agree more to create the space. I mean, to create a space for pretty much any, it can be simple as an answer that you're seeking to create that space, or also a relationship, or even a space to build a business. Something that really fascinates me from what you created, Kareem, is to spot talent. Okay, so Dulcedo is a talent management agency. If you like look on the macro, and then you have all these different divisions, which will come to that subject very soon. But just to give some context, I came to your offices when I was 17. So anyway, like in 2010. So really at the beginning, I think it was on the Gaspé, and I still remember with my dad, and for me, that specific moment in time changed my life. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, and I'm sure there's a lot of story like myself who Dulcedo had such a big impact and like changed the whole course of their life. How do you spot real talent today beyond just looks and numbers?
Yeah, good question. And just side note, there's been hit and misses throughout the years. Sometimes we hit, it's great, and I remember us passing on a few people where the team wasn't as convinced, there wasn't consensus, so we passed, and then the person broke out to be a really big international success, and that
Mm,
and that disappoints. And the other way around as well, when we had consensus on someone, but then the person did not have any success or traction. So it's not a perfect science to spot talent, but I think one of the and it's many different criteria, right? Especially when you're talking about a model, I think it's maybe a little bit um more physical. There's a little bit more superficial aspects to it, where it's physical beauty, it's physical attributes, and there needs to be that. But I've even seen people with all of that who were missing the self-confidence or missing another ingredient, and they would not succeed, even though they've been given the physical cards and attributes to succeed, and they would not. So, one thing that we always looked for was a really strong personality and a really strong mindset with self esteem, strong self esteem. And that's really necessary for someone to succeed in the modeling industry, is to just believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, and I think that's so interesting because it transpires to so many other things in life,
mm,
and entrepreneurship as well, is you have to believe in yourself if you want to convince others to believe in you, right? And it's fascinating to see how many very beautiful, attractive human beings lack self-esteem. And
mhm,
it's something that can be worked on, it's something that can be developed. And I think over the years, we've invested a lot of energy as agents to try and build up the self-esteem of our people that we work with, of our models. Um, and now today that transpires into talent management. So helping, influencers and, thought leaders and sports athletes to just really believe in their capacity to be inspiring role models for other people, and to shine. And some people are a little bit shy, they're not as comfortable to be in the open space. that way. So it's a work in progress to help them really achieve that level of self-esteem where they're confident and it radiates. It has to radiate. When you see a talent that is going to be successful, they radiate the energy of success. You just feel it. And it's a little bit of a gamble, obviously. Like I said, it's a hit or miss, but typically it's also, for me, it's very intuition driven. Like when I see someone, I'm like, wow, that person's going to make it. I just feel it. I sense it. And it might be because of my years in the industry. Obviously, now I'm in my 17th year in the talent industry, so I've definitely seen my fair share of people throughout the years. But I think when you see someone that has the physical attributes and they have the mindset, they're just a class apart. Like you just know they're gonna break. They're gonna make it in the industry. So those are typically the people that we are gonna gravitate towards. And also, it's a team effort. Like, I rely a lot on the expertise of the team members in my company, where over the years we've had disagreements over who we should take or who we should pass on. And I tend to go with the consensus. I trust them. I trust the people I work with. And,
Mm.
six brains are better than one. So I think that is also a trait that entrepreneurs should take a lesson from, is trusting your team. That's really important.
Mm. Wow. Let's unpack a little bit here because I think there's a few really solid point that we can talk about. First of all, when you talked about building self-confidence, which I totally agree. I think it's you can see the most beautiful person from the outside, but they lack a lot of self-confidence. Do you have any like practical, maybe one, two, or three advices or tips on how to actually build that confidence at a young age? Because most of the talent most of the time will come, they might be a little younger, 18, 20, early 20s, and you're still figuring out who you are. I mean, we're figuring out who we are throughout our whole life, but at that age it's so confusing, especially now. Do you have any practical advice or from your team to build that confidence?
Well, self confidence and self esteem, sometimes it comes from within. So that's easier for those who have it naturally. But
Okay.
for those that need to develop it, oftentimes it comes from family. Either they've been built up, or they've been sometimes, broken down. In
Mm-hmm.
terms, parents do their best, but they're just humans and they make mistakes. And sometimes their way of educating their child actually hinders, or breaks down a little bit the person's self-esteem or self-confidence. So I would say, like, as an advice, as a young person, if you feel you're lacking self-confidence or self-esteem, try and find successful people around you in your network or outside of your network that can help you with, going out for coffee once in a while and giving you advice and
Mm.
learning from them, right? And kind of like a mentor. I think a mentor would be great if you're a young model and you could find another model that has a successful career or was successful in their career when they were modeling, and then just ask the person for coffee to pick their brain, and just build a friendship with that person, and then just spending time with that person. You're kind of going to absorb a little bit of their energy, and I think that could be really helpful. So finding a mentor
Mm.
could be really good advice. And I think sometimes therapy helps, going to see a therapist. And I think in 2025, the cool thing about, the time that we're living in now, is that it's no longer taboo to have a therapist, or a coach, to help you develop. I have a professional coach, and I'm not ashamed to say that it's very helpful. Like,
Of
they
course.
coach me on my blind spots, or on my areas that I want to improve, and they help me turn that around. So that's one way to do it. And a therapist, I feel, could really help you see your blind spots. Where you
Mm.
don't know you had issues, they're going to light them up. And then if you clear those, you can really build on yourself and hopefully achieve higher levels of self-confidence.
Mm.
And another angle that's coming to mind as well is not to
Yeah.
compare yourself to others. Uh,
That's a big one.
yeah,
That's a
hey,
really
that's a big obvious one.
well, it's a big one, but it's harder. I think it's easier to say than to actually apply. Like, especially if you're stuck on your phone most of your day and just scrolling and looking at all these incredible people having success online, success of what they're showing, and then you're comparing yourself. But yeah, so what's your take on that? Not comparing yourself with
Well,
others.
it's hard. I mean, we all compare ourselves in this day and age on, especially
Hmm.
like you said, on social media. Like I go on LinkedIn and I see so many great entrepreneurs, and sometimes I even have moments where I'm like, man, I'm like, I feel I'm still in the basement. I feel like I'm still building foundations here because this guy has 5,000 employees and
Yeah.
they're doing 250 million a year, and like I'm barely scratching the surface compared to that. So it's easy to fall into that, but I think one way to look at it is look at where you started and place an X on a graph, and look where
Mm,
you're at now and place an X, and then trace a line, and just notice that the line is actually pointing upwards, so you're in the
mm,
right trajectory, you're going in the right direction. And that's something that's important to remember, is your roots, where you're from and where you're now, and to see the delta, the positive delta between both points. That's like, it's a reminder, like, no, I'm good, I made a lot of progress from point A to point B, I'm good, and point C is going to be even better because it's in the same direction that I'm going. So I think it does require a little bit of self discipline not to compare yourself to others. And humans are just built that way naturally, to benchmark each other against each other. But social media is definitely one of those tricky ones where everyone puts out the best of themselves and in the best possible light. So you're competing with an artificial image of others that they're trying to portray, which is very deceitful. And that's unfortunately a toxic side of social media.
mm. Yep, we're gonna highlight this one because it's it's important for people to know. There's great side of it, and then there's the unfortunate side of it. But I appreciate those that wisdom. And let's, if you don't mind, Kareem, like I think I love to highlight success. I really do. I think it's important to share those stories. Here in Quebec, sometimes it can be, I don't know, it can be perceived a little different. I'm not like that at all. I like to celebrate my peers, celebrate my brothers, my friends. And if you want to share like to the audience, maybe the scale and the size of Dulcedo when it started in early, like 2009, 2010 ish, and maybe where it is today with multiple location, the amount of employees they won, what it is today, maybe the divisions, and even if you want to talk numbers, we're open to hear about them. But if just give some context from the growth from day one to where we are today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, the first thing you said makes a lot of sense with me. The relationship to success, right? One's own relationship towards success
Mm,
and to other people's success. And I think in the US, what I like about the US culture is that they celebrate success a lot
they do.
more than
Yep.
Canadians do,
Oh
right?
yeah.
You see someone that bought themselves a nice Cadillac, while they put it
Yeah.
in their driveway, and the neighbors are like, look, Bob just got a new Cadillac, that's so cool, like he's so successful, amazing, and it's celebrated. Here in Quebec and in Canada, it's very different. Typically people would hide their Cadillacs in their garage, not to make others jealous. So it's kind of a different culture, I find. And I was
Mm,
I was I was really happy to discover that it's not that way everywhere in the world.
yeah.
And that really inspired me to be a little bit more like, take the good from America. There's a lot of good in the American culture that we can learn from, and grow as individuals, especially towards success and entrepreneurship.
Mm,
So, I also love to celebrate success. I love to see my peers win. I love to see you, Eryck, winning. When I remember when you would have a new amazing milestone in your modeling career, I would be clapping so hard, and
yeah.
really rooting for you, and I really want you to make it. And through the years as well, I've had models that have stuck with Dulcedo, and I've had models that have left Dulcedo for other agencies, and
Mm-hmm.
they've still become very successful, and I
Mm-hmm.
love to see them win. I just love to see others win, and that's just part of who I am. So yeah, I think it's important to recognize that success and to celebrate our own wins as well. To take a moment and to say, you know what, like. this is happening now. I need to pinch myself. This is awesome. It should be celebrated. Let's celebrate it. And that's why every 5 years I like to throw a really big celebration party for the company.
They're epic.
Yeah, you know, right? We go hard. We go hard for
Yeah.
the 5 years. So we had a beautiful fifth. We had an amazing 10th, and we just last year had our, or the year before, had our 15th anniversary, which was also quite epic. And you know, celebrating that, even though it costs a ridiculous amount of money, and some people would say you're just throwing that money away. I think it's important to celebrate our wins. So Dulcedo's obviously evolved quite a lot since we
Yeah.
started. We were a model agency, and for the longest time, you remember we were a team of maybe like 5, 6 employees
Yeah.
and 3 owners. So we were like a small group of like 10 people, sometimes 12, sometimes less. And on the side of that, my website studio kept going, and we had, so when you walked in the office, you felt there was 20, 30 people, and but really Dulcedo itself was really small. It was just like barely 10 people. And it's really when the influencer industry picked up seriously in 2019 that
Mm.
we saw a really rapid growth for Dulcedo. And it started with remote work being an enabler for us. It enabled us to start hiring outside of our core territories.
Mm.
You know, we have an office in Montreal, we have an office in Toronto. We opened in 2016, but still, there's small teams in both offices. But when COVID hit and now remote work was possible, it allowed us to hire really, really smart people outside of Montreal and Toronto. And those people have helped us grow tremendously as well. So
Mm.
for the longest time, we were maybe 10, 12 people. We grew to about 20. And then in 2019, from 2019 to now, we grew from, I would say, 20-ish people to now we're topping 200 full-time staff in the
Oh my
company.
God.
So it's a pretty mind-boggling growth for me.
Yeah.
It's a lot of really smart people in one big community. That's just awesome. And you know, obviously numbers are confidential, but
Yep.
we're nearing and we're about to surpass 100 million in sales a year, which is absolutely amazing, Drew. I'm
God,
really proud of.
congrats, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's unreal, really. Sometimes it feels like a dream, but it's actually real. And the key to that growth for me was really to surround myself by brilliant people, and it's always been how we rolled, you know, from our very first, you know, successful hire with Jasmine. You remember Jasmine,
For sure.
white gloves.
Yeah.
You know, brilliant woman. She really helped us tremendously. Noemi Monique helped us
Yep.
tremendously grow.
Yep.
So it's always like hiring brilliant people that just are better than you at what they do, you know. And that's a privilege to have someone that's brilliant in your team working on your project. And then they take ownership of that project like it's yours, and it like it's theirs, sorry, and it becomes a community that believe in what they're doing. And that's always how we've operated. So today I'm proud to say there's a lot of really brilliant people that are
Mm.
doing big things, and some of them are more skilled at what they do than I could do, you know. So it's really amazing, and I think that's the key to our growth.
Wow. From 20 to 200. Guys, this I love this story. It's a beautiful story of locally, self-made. And throughout that process, Kareem, I've done a bit of research, and I mean, I've known the story about how you guys also partner and merge with either acquired external companies, just like Sunday Creative, right? And with Benjamin, can you just share a little more, like in terms of partnering with the right person? Because I think it can make or break a business. Those relationships are so important as founders, and then having associate to people to just really come and bring that company to the next level. How's the process of finding someone like Benjamin or the woman who from Creative Sunday, and just to build, like, just to merge and build a whole bigger ecosystem? How is that process for you? And if you have any advice on people who wants to partner up with other people, like collaboration and partnerships.
Right. Great question. Milad was my first business partner in business, and then Karim joined us, and then Benjamin joined us, and then later we acquired Sunday Creative, and Corinne and Christina joined us, and then we acquired Node app, and Kevin and Mackenzie joined us as partners. So I think, if I try and see what's the common denominator between all these people, it's really like when I met them, I felt that 2 plus 2 is equal 5.
Mm,
So that me plus the person, let's say I'm a 2, you're a 2, but together we're a 5. So we actually are greater than the sum of the individuals together in the collective. So we're both making an increment on our situation by working together. Because if 2 plus 2 is equal 4, or sometimes 2 plus 2 is equal 3, then you're not partnering with someone that's bringing anything more to the table than what you're already. Might as well just stay at 2 on your side and be successful that way, right? But
mm,
when I met these wonderful people in the past, I had a moment where, when Karim Rakik walked into my office and he was like, I can help you guys. I really believed him. Like, he was like, I saw what he could bring, and I was like, you know what? You deserve a chair at this table. Here's the computer, here's the chair. Let's do it together. I think together we're going to have more success than if you're not in the equation, right? And that was the same thing when Benjamin walked into my office. I remember going back to Kareem and saying, I think I found a partner. And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, he came and he just wanted to work with Dulcedo. Like, he wanted to represent some of our talents in his own agency. But I think this guy should join us as a partner, and like we should absorb his agency in our company, and he should be the head of our department. And and Kareem was like, well, if you have that strong feeling and you believe so strongly in it, do it. Let's do it. And so I went to Benjamin and I offered him a partnership, and he accepted because he also felt the same way. When I told him, hey, would you accept to basically shut down your business and to put Dulcedo's jersey on and now, grow our company? Like, he had to also believe in his heart that he could win much bigger with that situation than him on his own. So again, on his side, I also understand it, like 2 plus 2 is equal 5 for him too. And that's
mm,
what's important in business with partnerships. So then that's for like joining in an extra partner in our company at a time where we were smaller. It's easier when you're dealing with like millions of dollars at stake, and you're acquiring a company that has assets, and you're it's a whole other ball game. What we've done with Sunday
mm,
Creative, we had to go through a process where, first of all, we did research, like who in Montreal is doing what we're looking to do, and who's crushing it, and who do we think we'd like to partner with. And then it's like dating. You go on a date before you get in a relationship with a person. You have to meet, you have to talk, you have to kind of like, persuade them. You have to also, you yourself, get persuaded that this is a good opportunity. So it's like a little bit of dating game. And then obviously you look at the numbers. You have to have a proper assessment of the value of the company, and then you need to make them an offer that they should not refuse. Uh, not Godfather style, of course, but yeah, you need to show them that 2 plus 2 is equal 5. I think that's what's important.
mm. I really love partnerships. I think it's great to surround yourself with people who can fill in those skill set gaps that are not necessarily yours, just like you mentioned with Kareem and with Benjamin. And yeah, I really like the way you portray the whole process. We've shared a lot of light on the success, and there's a whole other side behind success most of the time. I mean, pretty much always. Do you have any stories of maybe like just one of failure that was just so humbling and changed the way you maybe shift or thought your thought process, or it's just something that happened that you almost maybe even gave up, and something just created was that failure was such a big moment that now you can always go back to that moment when those specific experiences happen, and you now have the knowledge and the experience to like, oh, I've been through that. But I think we don't talk about failure enough.
Yeah.
behind the success. Yeah. So if you have any stories that you want to share here,
Yeah,
super
I mean,
interested.
there's been different failures over the years that have taught me tremendously. And one first lesson you learn as an entrepreneur is betrayal. You can get betrayed by someone that you trusted, like a brother or a sister, and that person betrays you and then steals a portion of your business and leaves with it, and it hurts very much. It hurts almost hurts your soul. To
Have you
think of.
made peace with that? Have you made peace with
Yeah,
that? Yeah.
yeah. I really have. And I forgave, and that's why I don't have any issues, calling out names of people that have hurt me before. But I still can celebrate what they've contributed to the company's success during the time they were with us.
Mm,
Because the betrayal doesn't take away from what they've contributed, right? It's just a
mm,
bad ending to a relationship that could have ended differently. But yeah, you learn to deal with betrayal, and that for me is a failure, because as an entrepreneur, your goal is to protect the business, and to protect the business you have to build it in a way where it can protect itself from those scenarios, right? So if someone betrays the company, and it shouldn't be allowed or capable of leaving with a large chunk of it, right? So the first time that happened, it was an agent that left to start their own agency, and they left with a bunch of our models and a bunch of our talents, and they started their own agency. For sure, it sucked, and it hurt, but I learned from it. I said, okay, I think we need to tighten up our contracts with the talents to make sure that they can't just pick up and go with the first one that betrays us, because we pour in so much time and energy and sometimes financial investment in them. Like we can't lose that, right? If they want to leave the agency, then there has to be something in exchange for that. So for me, like, I learned from it, and then you just trying to analyze where you can improve. And that, Eryck, I think is a really important thing that people need to understand, is like, if you fail, it's only a failure if you don't win a lesson from it.
mm,
Because if you learn a lesson, then it's a victory. You're leaving that situation with a prize. And the prize is usually much more valuable than what you're losing from the situation, right? You
mm,
might think like, oh, losing 100,000 or more money hurts and it's a huge failure, but maybe the lesson will help you avoid losing 1 million in 10 years. So
mm,
make sure not to skip the part of leaving with the lesson, and to really understand, what was my lesson in that failure? What did I really learn from that situation? Not just, well, I've learned that I can't trust anybody in life. That's bullshit.
mm.
You need to trust people,
Yeah.
but maybe you trust them in a way where you protect yourself just a little bit more in the eventuality, right? So that's one part. And then other failures have been, business failures. We've started business ventures with creators where we said, like, well, this person's a huge influencer. We're just going to start a brand with them, and it's going to blow up. They're going to sell it online, and it's a no-brainer. It's just going to sell. You see Kylie Jenner, you see Rode, which just sold for $1 billion apparently to it was Haley Bieber's brand. So
Well.
you think, like, it looks so easy to do, just take an influencer, put a product, and sell. Well,
Mm-hmm.
we failed 3 times at it, and they were expensive failures. So we created the eShop, we did all the work, we put it together, and then the creator promoted it, and it didn't succeed. It didn't sell. We lost
Mm.
money. We lost hundreds of thousands of dollars on these projects. So, failures are a thing, but again, it circles back to, what did we learn from those mistakes? Because what we've learned from those failed e-commerce sites, I can guarantee that it has helped our business in some way today.
If we devise a bit the divisions of Dulcedo, what they're offering, there's esports, modeling, influencers, and am I missing one?
Models, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
modeling, agent, yeah, modeling, influencers, and esports. Am I missing one?
Well, we say gaming now, gaming
Gaming.
and entertainment.
Okay.
I think the esports side of the industry has kind of like been a bubble that has kind of popped a little bit, and there was
Okay.
like a lot of hype on esport, but now it's more gaming. I think gaming streamers are really, really popular, and then
Okay.
the last one is sports and entertainment.
Sports and entertainment. Okay,
Yeah.
got it. And you do, I know you do represent some incredible worldwide, like A-class athletes from those. Like these are all incredible division. I'm very curious about the influencer part. If you want, like we can just talk a little bit about that one specifically because it's just rising, booming. I'm constantly fed like on my social media feed. It feels like almost everyone is now an influencer and selling me something. It's definitely working, and I'm purchasing because I'm seeing influencers.
Oh, me too, man. I've converted in ways where after I check out, I'm like, wait a second, did I just get suckered by an
Yep.
influencer? Yeah,
I
okay.
mean, I don't know if it's soccer, but like it's working. You know,
Yeah.
it's definitely working, and I think it's great for brand, small businesses, big businesses to do, uh, to go that route for marketing. If if you look at the next few years ahead, and how optimistic are you with the influencer business? Still, is it still like a niche, and it's still going to be booming more and more, or are we like peaking right now? Where do you think we're at in this maybe bubble or not, or is it a bubble? Like,
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think nobody knows for sure. But what I can tell you is that word of mouth has been around in civilization for humans as long as humans have been able to speak, right? We speak to each other and we tell each other what's hot, what's not, what's a danger, an opportunity, and like people communicate between each other. And I think social media has enabled that like at an exponential capacity, right? Like someone can speak to 20 million people all at once. That's incredible. Like you could only do that through radio or television back in the days. So internet has completely flipped the game upside down. But if you bring it back to the root of like what is an influencer, what is a social media content creator, it's really someone doing word of mouth. I'm putting out something and people are listening it to like a podcast, right?
mm,
So, Joe Rogan reaches, millions and hundreds of millions of people, maybe billions of people, so I think that word of mouth component is not going anywhere. I think that's staying because it's always been like that. The platforms I think are changing, they're evolving. The media is also changing. Like we're seeing like there was a shift from like just static images on Instagram to then videos to reels, and now it's very very vertical video oriented. So I think like the media format changes. Also podcasts are a big thing now, so audio, just listening to audio, and we saw a trend with a Clubhouse that was like it peaked at a hype. So you see emerging platforms all the times, and I think the game is also getting more difficult because you have established names already.
mm,
So like the space is getting crowded. So it becomes hard to become an influencer or to become famous or to get a large community around you. But I do think that thought leaders, people that are respected for what they say and that people follow them, whether it's for controversy or it's for entertainment purposes or if it's educational, I still think that that's going to stay. It's just getting more competitive to become an influencer.
do you there's a word in 2025 that is just buzzing every single day, which is AI. Do you see it as a like wind behind you, just like really pushing you forward, or you see it as a threat in this specific niche of business of talent management, influencers?
I see it as an enabler for now.
Yeah.
I don't see it so much as a threat. I see it as an enabler because it's going to help content creators create better content faster for even cheaper. It's going to, give video effects at a super cheap rate that before you couldn't do those kinds of VFX in videos at a cost effective rate. So the
Mm,
content's going to just get even better. And I think it opens a window of opportunity for artists that are really creative, that are able to harness the tools and to put it to their advantage. And I think there's going to be probably some new niches that don't even exist right now that we're going to discover because AI allows those things to exist. We've already seen like full on artificial characters that are AI characters on social media and that
yeah.
exist, that we've seen with millions of followers, like that's already a thing. I think we're going to get in a space where probably, you'll be able to scroll on social media and your whole timeline is going to be AI generated content just for you. So the video that you're going to see on your feed is going to be made just for you based on your preferences and based on your style, and it's going to be live. So you're going to watch it and it's live. Kind of like watching a Hollywood movie where the whole script is made just for your eyes only and the whole movie is just for you. And it's the best movie in the world because it's exactly your preferences and it's exactly what you're looking for. But it won't be the same movie I watch. So I think we're going to get into a really weird space where there's things right now that we can't even imagine yet, but that we're going to see over the next 2 to 5 years. And I think also um, the technology companies and the governments are going to add regulation, like rules and laws around the use of AI as well. So the same way where you see food at the supermarket, you have GMO, you have non-GMO food, you have
Mm,
organic food, you have like pesticide food. So and they're labeled organic. So I think we're gonna probably, my prediction is we're probably going to see content that's like organic versus content that has AI being labeled or identified somehow so that users can know what they're consuming, because it's getting like too confusing. It's like the deep fakes are just too good. So we're going to see some
mm,
regulation around that. I'm pretty sure. And then I think we're going to see areas of opportunity where someone that has amazing intellectual property, like let's say Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone, who are action stars in their prime, I think we're going to be able to go back to their 24-year-old selves, digitalize them in AI, and then have many more action movies done at the prime of their career. Versus now they're old. If they shoot a movie, obviously it's not the same as
mm-hmm.
as when Arnold was 24, man. He was prime, or
Yeah.
28. So I think we're going to see IP, intellectual property of celebrities and influencers becoming a lot more valuable because they'll be able to be exploited in ways that wasn't possible previously without the use of AI.
Whoa. That's it. I had no idea of most of what you just shared. So I think this is great insight for anyone who is trying to see a little bit in the future of this space combining with AI. So thank you for sharing that. Karim, I have a few more questions for you and we can wrap it up. And one is I think building a business, but also adding a specific culture to it and taking care of the management and pretty much a whole employee in the team. And I've seen you do it in person while I was in Tulum. You brought the whole team in Tulum and had a whole. I think I don't know how long you were, like a few days, maybe 4 or 5 days. You were guys were in Tulum, beautiful villa, coming to the beach, movement workshops. How important it is for you to first of all create that culture in Dulcedo while it's still growing and booming, and first of all how important it is, but also what are the actual actions that you are creating, because I think we're beyond the ping pong table and the foosball. So like what are you actually doing, and like entrepreneurs who wants to create that and push different layers of their business down the culture all the way down to the person at the front desk. If you have any advice on that, it would be great.
Yeah, I think we're getting to a place where the human consciousness is elevating, everywhere. And, the days where, you have 200 people working for making one person rich, and that person is trying to cut costs at every corner to maximize their profits. I think those days are over. Nowadays, people want to belong to something. They want to belong to a company. They don't want just a job to make money. They want to feel like they belong to a community, to a collective. And I think that's where entrepreneurship and sustainable business is driving towards. And it just makes sense. I mean, think about it. Like brilliant people like yourself and me, like if we had to flip side become an employee of another company, what would we want in exchange of our time?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think about that a lot. Like if I was in the shoes of our team members, what would I expect? And I'd want to be respected, and I'd want to be valued, and I'd want to feel like I belong in an inclusive, positive community that respects me, but also stimulates me, and where I can learn and thrive and grow. And if I, as an entrepreneur, as a CEO, I'm not offering that to my staff, I
Mm,
think somebody else in the world is offering it to their staff, and our staff is just going to leave to go work there, right? So also there's this thing with me where I feel privileged that these staff are working in our company, that they chose Dulcedo. Because let's think about it for a moment. From your 24 to 44, this is the prime slice of your life. This is the slice of your life where you have the most energy, you have the most to give, you're most motivated to build something. And if I'm asking you to give me or give this company the best slice of your professional life, well, in exchange, the exchange has to be good. So I feel privileged that people are giving that slice to this company, and I want to give them back something that they can really feel good about more than just a paycheck. Because money's great. I mean, everyone loves making good money, and I think our compensation plans are built in a way where they're very competitive. There's commission, they're motivated. They're almost like mini business partners, because the more money they make, the more they earn personally. Great. But money can only get you to one part. After that, I think it's the culture, like you mentioned, that makes a difference. Where am I going to work at Dulcedo, or am I going to work at CAA or WME or Octagon? These competing agencies. Well, Dulcedo is a community, and if you join us, you'll be part of that community, and you're not just going to be a brick in a wall, but you can actually make a difference. And when you make a big victory, it's going to get celebrated, and you're going to get highlighted, and you're going to feel like you've contributed to the growth of the community. And I think that's what people want fundamentally, is to get that recognition in a community where their contributions are valued, they're appreciated, and they're celebrated. And I think that's what people yearn for. And that's what we're trying to build at Dulcedo. So yeah, it also goes back to giving back. And kudos to my partner Benjamin. I think he really opened our eyes, or let's put it this way, he had us put our hands in the pot and do it. You could talk the talk, but you have to walk the walk.
mm,
So he's the first one that instigated, okay, let's do a retreat where we bring our
mm,
people out and we spend whatever it costs to make a positive impact in people's lives. And
mm.
he motivated us. And it has been, I think, one of the best return on investments ever. I mean, it's great as business owners to have dividends at the end of the year. Fantastic.
Yeah.
But return on investment for me is not dividends. It's seeing people smile, be happy in their lives, being happy and motivated to be part of this community, and to be so motivated to build with us. That's the return on investment. Because if you take care of these people, they will take care of you in return. That's what a community is all about. So I think it's more of a mindset that has that shift, and that's something that we've successfully implemented and that we invest on. And it's not easy. It requires time and energy, and it requires financial resources to be able
Yeah.
to pull. But as a startup, if I'm giving advice to entrepreneurs that are starting their companies, for sure, people make fun of pizza parties, in corporate culture. But when you're a small startup company, just taking staff, calling a picnic day, and having a barbecue with people to connect on a human level, that's not that expensive to organize, and it will make a positive impact. It might not be this fancy 3-day retreat with yoga, wellness, and like all these things, but just connecting with your people on a human level and making them feel like you care about them, you want to connect with them on a level that's human. I think that goes a long way.
Hmm. So Benjamin is the one who actually initiated the retreat. That's all. I didn't. That's awesome. That I mean, I'm sure it's a group decision for everyone to just like, yeah, let's go forward to it. It's I think it's powerful to transcend that what you just said, really, like from being capable of sharing a retreat on a scale, like larger scale for 30 person, then doing the barbecue. Like there's macros and micro stuff you can do throughout the week and then throughout the years. How do you guys feel after coming back from a week of or 5 days being outside of the job, being in different outfits in different environment, bouncing different ideas around, and actually maybe being a bit more vulnerable. Like I'm not sure how the camaraderie happens, but how do you guys feel coming back from that? Do you or is like just refreshed, inspired? Like
Yeah,
what are you guys looking for?
I think the main goal is really to tighten up relationships between team
Mm,
members. You know, to really like build real relationships, and we've seen that before where we've had like little rivalries between two comrades, and on their way back from the retreat, now they're allies and they're helping each other, and they're like, well, I didn't know he was that cool of a person, or I didn't know she was so nice, you know, like wow, like okay, like now you're motivated to want to help them. And I think that circles back to our DNA as humans, is that we're tribal, right?
mm,
We're like our minds are built to build tribes, and humans have always thrived because we've assembled into a larger group, and because we're in a larger group, we can accomplish bigger goals together, such as, you know, even building a pyramid, you know, like, well, unless those are aliens that built it, but that's another discussion. uh, but you know, like we can accomplish bigger things by being in a bigger group and belonging to a larger group, and that's our tribal DNA. So when you're back from an event like that, you really feel like you're part of a group, and that you're part of a tribe, and that the tribe appreciates you and you appreciate the tribe, and you're motivated to see the tribe win. And I think that's, you know, coming back from it, we're energized in that way. Also, I think we make a point of wanting people to discover more spiritual aspects or wellness aspects during those retreats. I'm a very spiritual person, my partners are as well, and we care about like doing like breath work activities where, you know, I've had staff cry during those breath work sessions, saying like, I didn't expect to feel, you know,
mm,
so, you know, intense emotions like that. I wasn't expecting it, you know, but like breath work has brought me to a place I've never been or experienced before. And I'm like, wow, that's beautiful. You just had a real experience, like a real experience, you
mm,
know, through that breath work or through that wellness session, or the different activities that we have. And I think that's important also, that it, like these retreats with staff or these moments aren't about work. They're about the people. They're about the relationships. They're about life, real life things. And I think that's the essence that entrepreneurs should focus on when they imagine these real life things.
mm. What's your relationship with health and wellness, Karim? Like it's it seems like you have a lot on your plate, probably quite very busy, and I mean from my perspective at least, to managing 200 employees and constantly evolving, do you do you put it in your agenda? Like, how is your health and wellness actually at the moment? What's your priority? Let's say, is it fitness? Is it yoga? Is it just sometime being present? We talked about meditation at the beginning, now breath work, mentioned spirituality. So what's your take on entrepreneurship and the benefits of actually having some type of health and wellness routine incorporated on the daily?
Yeah. I'm really lucky. I had the most amazing coach in my life. That was my mother. And she's very spiritual. So she introduced me to spirituality and wellness at a very young age. And
Mm,
she almost forced me, not forced me, but she almost didn't give me much of a choice. You know, I had to at least try it before I said no, you know, and then you try it and you're like, well, that wasn't too bad. I kind of enjoyed it, you know, and she opened my mind and my spirit to it, because I'm very Cartesian, and I'm very, you know, square, and I'm very business, and I'm very focused about, you know, productivity and accomplishing big things. And so she actually opened up that side of spirituality for me, with me, and she showed me that, you know, there's other aspects of life that are equally important, or if not even more important than, you know,
mm,
3D world things. And a friend of mine put it in a very interesting way. He said, you know, think of life kind of like an octagon wheel, where if all eight sides of that wheel are the same length, the octagon can roll like a wheel. But and each side of that octagon wheel is different aspects of your life, such as family, relationships, friends, business, career, money, you know, well, physical well-being. And So if like all your energy and all your focus is business, then that side of the octagon is going to be way too large, and then
Mm.
it's no longer rolling forward. It's no longer, being able to circulate. So the energy is stuck. So like I think keeping life balance in that way, where different aspects of yourself are focused on, and you try not to neglect other sides. I think that's really important. So yeah, wellness and spirituality and just taking care of my spirit is very important to me. And I've had the chance to have wonderful experiences over the years, and some of them even with psychedelic medicine that has
Mm.
opened up, different dimensions that I didn't even think I could ever experience in this 3D world. And coming back from those experiences, grown, there's personal growth that's involved. And yeah, like I think it's part of me, and I try and in my day-to-day life, through work or even through my social life, um, spread awareness for spirituality and wellness and taking care of yourself and your spirit and all of that. It's definitely very important to me and plays a central role in my life.
Do you have one, like, let's say, just one specific activity or exercise that currently you really appreciate doing? Either it's running, walking, I don't know, playing basketball or training.
Yeah, I think physical activity is really important. Like the feeling I get walking out of the gym after a good workout or after a big pump, and those 10-15 seconds after the set and the pump, like there's no price for that, man. It is
Mm.
priceless. You feel just so good. You feel, the rush of endorphins and all the other hormones I'm sure the brain makes. I think that's really important, and I really enjoy it. I'm really into physical well-being. I just turned 40. My white hair can definitely confirm that. Um, so I think taking care of myself is a personal goal of mine. So when I'm 60 or 70 years old, I can still ride a bicycle, and I could still tie my own shoes. That's
Mhm.
really important to me as I grow older, is to take care of the physical body that I was entrusted with in this world. And if I don't do it, then who will, right? So you need to carve out some time to take care of yourself. And 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 another aspect that I really enjoy is the breath work. I think that has been very, very powerful for me. And when I sit down and I meditate and I do breath work, it takes me to these wild places where I sometimes get flashes of inspiration. I
Mhm.
get ideas. And funny enough, Eryck, that translates also to when I fall asleep or when I wake up and I'm in the theta brain waves. People that don't know about this, you can look at alpha, beta, and theta brain waves. And when you're falling asleep, you're in this half awake, half sleeping state of mind. And I get these downloads and I get these ideas like, I must do this because it's really good.
Mhm.
And then I come out of it, I'm like, holy shit, that's a great idea. Like, let me write
Mm.
this down. And so I think like breath work brings you there, and also when you meditate it brings you there, and that's the same type of brainwave that you're on when you're falling asleep or waking up. So trying to spend as much time as I can in those brainwaves has been really, really productive for me.
Amazing, man. That's great advice. If this is going to be pretty much our last question for you, Kareem, then I have a few rapid questions, and let's call it. If you could talk to 22-year-old Kareem today, what would you say?
Wow, that's a tough one. I would say tone down the arrogance. You don't know everything, and even though you feel like you could learn everything, sometimes these lessons are take more time than you'd like to think. So chill and one step at a time, but definitely follow your intuition. When your gut feeling speaks, listen to it. Um, Keep taking risks, but sometimes maybe it's better to think before you roll the dice on something. Just skip a beat. And another piece of advice I'd give myself, which has taken me years to really assimilate, is to think before you speak. Think before
Mm.
you speak. Roll your tongue 7 times before you speak. And that's something my mom's always told me, and I never knew the importance of it until later in life, in my 30s and now 40s. Like I definitely think before I speak. Sometimes I'm in a group, someone says something, I'd want to quick fire answer back on something, and I actually hold my tongue now, and I think about it. I'm
Mm.
like, you know what? Nah, I'm not gonna say anything. It's more pop. It's sometimes silence speaks louder than words, you know. So yeah.
What just for that last part, is it because what you're about to say will be, I don't know, like disrespectful, or is it just not necessary to drop it at that moment? What's like those do you have an example of or like a recurrent way of like, because I love to speak my truth as well most of the time, but sometimes it's not the right timing. Like the truth doesn't has to be put in that person's face, you know, like so I don't know for you if that was your if that's like an example, or you would say I don't think disrespectful,
Not
but
not necessarily disrespectful, but I would say like in business especially, you know, when dealing with situations that are hot or you know, it's too easy to let your emotions speak for you, and
mm,
sometimes just holding back and letting your reason, your mind actually do the speaking instead of letting your emotions do the speaking are actually going to get a better result for you in terms of what your agenda is. And I think that has been, you know, to speak more intelligently and to adapt the message to the receiver versus just blurting out what you feel in that moment, which is what you want to hear. But taking a moment, skipping a beat, and then giving the person what they need to hear, now that's a skill. And
mm,
that's what I've developed over the years that I wish I would
mm.
have maybe, you know, knew earlier on in my life.
I couldn't agree more with that. Okay, let's do a few rapid questions, okay, and then we'll call it.
Sounds good.
These are pretty simple, you know, quick answers. Some going to be one word, some going to be like a small sentence. It's going to be a little more like on the fun. We've been super deep in these conversations,
Yes, we
so
have, Eryck.
let's
You
yeah.
you brought me in a podcast. I didn't know what I was expecting here.
You crushed it, man. It
Thank
was
you.
so, yeah, great, valuable insights. All right, let's just do this. New York or LA?
LA.
Suit or activewear?
Suit.
Hot or cold?
Hot.
Beach or mountain?
Beach.
Car or motorcycle?
Motorcycle.
Best advice you ever got?
Best advice I ever got. My God, man.
I know.
Yeah, like it's gonna
One
sound tacky,
sentence.
but like
Go for it.
trust your instincts.
Beautiful. Most underrated part of success.
Underrated part of success. Having more time. When you have success, you're supposed to have more time.
Mm. Last one. Finish the sentence for me, Karim. Success without blank is failure.
Wow. Success without is failure. Success without a strong community around you is failure.
Beautiful. Boom. That's a drop the mic.
Good one,
Great,
man.
man. Well done. That was great. I'm so happy. I'm very excited for this podcast to be out there. This conversation has been we've been trying to coordinate this while I was in Nicaragua, and now we're finally sitting down. I know you had a huge weekend, and I appreciate you taking time and energy today. And I'm very grateful for our relationship. Like I said at the beginning of this podcast, Dulcedo, the agency that you created truly changed and shifted my life for the
Wow.
best no, for real, at a young age. And I'll be forever grateful for that specific connection and spark when I was 17. And here we are today, 15, 16 years later, having this conversation. So it's a full
Crazy.
circle. Yeah, it's a first circle. I'm very happy. I'm very grateful, guys. Karim, can you just let us know where people can find you if they want to have an idea of maybe how to become a model, maybe the website, your social media?
Absolutely. For
Yeah.
everyone looking to get into modeling, definitely check out our website, dulcedo.com.
Yep.
We're on socials, Dulcedo at Dulcedo on every platform. I personally, you can look me up on Instagram. That's where I'm most active. I love posting stories. Karim S. Leduc, you can find me there. And Eryck,
Great.
thank you so much for trusting us and for the support and just love that you've shown for our relationship. It's very mutual, and I appreciate it very, very much.
Amazing, man. Karim, well done. Bravo, bro.
Thank you. Merci. Bye bye.
Ciao. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to follow the show and leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. It really helps us to grow and keep the conversation going. Thanks for listening.